The great Lord Vishnu has already come 9 times into the world to save his people. His 10th birth is yet to come. His 9 appearances closely parallel the 9 principal changes taking place in the human embryo previous to birth. Vishnu was first born out of the mouth of a fish. He then rose out of the body of a turtle. Still later, he appeared as a boar, then a lion, afterwards a monkey. And after a number of still other changes, he appeared as a man. I noted some time ago that a scientist had arranged a table showing the relationship of the human brain to various animals during the prenatal period. He followed exactly the list of incarnations of Vishnu, while totally unaware that he was linking together Oriental occultism and Occidental embryology. The cosmogony myths of nearly every nation are based upon embryology. The formation of the cosmos is said to have taken place in the same way that man is formed, only on a larger scale. For example, in the Vishnu Puranas, we are told that creation took place within the womb of Mem. Space was surrounded by great mountains and cliffs, the Quran. The universe was created out of water and floated in a great sea, the amniotic fluid. Down a ladder, the umbilical cord, came the gods. 4 rivers flowed into the new land, as told in Genesis. These are the blood vessels of the umbilical cord. So the story goes, and a marvelous correlation exists. Someday, perhaps a new science may be based upon the law of analogy. This will prove to be a far greater contribution to scientific data than all the scientific speculations of all ages. It is reasonably certain that the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden is based upon embryology, and that the womb is the original Garden of Eden. In symbolism, it is represented by a dot in a circle. This dot is the primitive germ, and so on as far as you wish to carry the analogy. The egg of Brahma is the story of the cosmic embryo, and embryology is the basic study of creation. In embryology, we also have a very interesting recapitulation of the passage of the human race through the various species of nature. Here, we find at certain periods the Hyperborean creatures. At another time, we see the primitive Lemurian man, later the Atlantean, and finally the Aryan. We most certainly recommend to all occult students that they make a very careful study of this subject. Science knows that all life upon this planet came out of the water. The human embryo is enveloped in water through all the primitive stages of its growth, and in it we find the story of the evolution of all things. Sex did not appear upon the planet until the 3rd race. It does not appear in the embryo until the 3rd month. The recapitulation of the human embryo through the lower kingdoms of nature is one of the strongest proofs of evolution, inasmuch as it proves conclusively that man could not have been made originally in his adult condition. Consequently, he passed through a cosmic embryology. In fact, he is still in the embryo and will not actually be born into the human race until he is truly human, which will not be for many thousands of years. He is just in the state of becoming man. The 9 months of the prenatal epoch have been employed in symbolism for ages. 9 is called the number of man because of the 9 months that the body is in a state of preparation. The perfect number is supposed to be 12. So at the present time, man is born 3 months before he is finished. The gradual unfoldment of the human race will result in more being accomplished during the prenatal epoch, until finally birth will be the ultimate, and all experience and growth will take place in the embryonic state. Man is not born all at once. We may say that he is born by degrees. The consciousness works outside of the body, laboring with the plastic substances up to the time of the quickening, when it takes hold of the vehicle from within and begins to mold a certain amount of individuality out of the materials which surround it. At the time of birth, the physical body is born, and a process of crystallization sets in which never ceases for a moment until death. Man begins to die the moment he is born, and the span of life is the length of time which this requires. At the 7th year, the vital body comes into action, and the greatest periods of growth commence. It is then the parents begin to experience difficulties. It is the time of letting clothes down and out. Children shoot up like weeds, for they are literally recapitulating their plant existences, whereas before that time they were recapitulating their mineral state. At about the 7th year, the child begins to manufacture vital essences within his own body. Up to that time, he lives upon life forces secreted in the ductless glands of the throat before birth. In other words, he maintains himself upon life, which he has stored away from the parent. At about 7, he starts work for himself. He is on the go every minute. And if youth could only bottle up its energy and preserve it for old age, what a wonderful world we would live in. Between 12 and 14 in the temperate zones, the liver starts activity. The emotional body is born. It is during these adolescent years that youth faces its greatest problem. Emotionalism runs riot. The consciousness is recapitulating its animal existences. It may truly be said that these are the days of puppy love. These are years often filled with great mistakes. More lives are blighted between the 14th and 21st years than at any other period of life. It has been observed that the children of strongly emotional races are often brilliant and at the head of their classes until adolescence. When, however, the emotional nature becomes active at about the 14th year, these children frequently lose interest and ability in formal education. Any school teacher who has taught foreign children will vouch for this condition among certain nationalities. The moron is an example of the loss of mental function with the birth of the astral body, and there are many of these examples. During these years of emotional riot, parents must rule their children with firmness and kindness, or those same children will turn someday upon their parents and blame them for ruined lives. Between 18 and 21, according to climatic conditions, the mental body takes hold, and we say that the individual has reached the age of majority. He is then permitted to vote. His father presents him with a gold watch and sends him out into the world to seek his fortune. Not one person in a million realizes why 21 is set as the age of majority, but every occultist knows the reason. The spiritual consciousness, the true I am, does not take hold of its new body until the 21st year. Up to that time, it is ruled entirely by the lower sense centers. Life thus progresses in cycles of 7 years. As an example of this, we know that the 28th year is the period of second physical birth, the 35th year the period of second vital birth, or, as it is called, second growth, the 42nd year the period of second emotional birth. During these years, people otherwise perfectly normal very often grow sentimental. The 49th year marks the dawn of a new period of mental activity. And the following 7 years are the golden years of thought. They are the periods of philosophic reason, the crowning years of life, and so on, cycle after cycle. If the individual waits long enough, he may pass through his second, third, and fourth childhoods. Few people realize that they are composed of mineral, plant, and animal elements. The bones are literally minerals. Hair is a plant nourished by waves of vital ether pouring out through the skin, while within every individual are thousands of little wiggling, creeping, crawling things that make each of us a zoo all by ourselves. The ancient Scandinavians, realizing this, wrote many legends about the little creatures that live in man. A famous statue of Father Nile shows him covered over with tiny human figures representing the attributes and functions of man. Man is a great study, but we make very little use of our textbook. The scriptures of all nations are filled with anatomical references to cities and places that have no existence outside of man himself. The 12 gates of the holy city are the 12 apertures in the human body. Like the 12 masters of wisdom and the 12 great schools of philosophy, these apertures are divided into 2 divisions of 7 and 5. There are 7 visible openings and 5 concealed openings in the human body. One of the Greek philosophers told his disciples to remember distinctly that there were 6 openings leading into the human brain, but only one leading out of the human head, and that one led from the stomach. Therefore they were to listen twice, once with each ear, look twice, once with each eye, sense twice, once with each nostril, but to speak only once, and that what they spoke would come from the stomach and not the brain. The advice still holds good. The Hebrews used the human head as a favorite symbol to express the divine attributes, calling it the great face. The two eyes were correlated to the Father, for they were organs of consciousness, the two nostrils to the Son, because they were organs of sense and also vehicles for prana, the life force in the ether. The mouth was used to symbolize the Holy Spirit, the one who sent forth the spoken word and formed the world. The 7 vowels to which the mouth gave birth were the 7 spirits before the throne, also the vials and trumpets of revelation. They went forth as the army of the voice to create in the 7 worlds, and all nature resulted from their creative power. Few realize the magnificent symbolism concealed within the human head, and how it has been used in scriptural writings. To this article is appended a treatise which was published separately some years ago, but has been out of print for some time. The treatise has a direct bearing upon the subject of anatomical symbolism, showing how the principles outlined in the preceding pages work out when applied to different world problems of today.